many people here know what Agile is? Oh, a good chunk of you. For the rest, here's a slide. So Agile is just the idea that you plan, you collaborate, you deliver, and then you take lessons learned from that activity and you cycle it all back in again. It's not really a hard concept in terms of ideas, but in terms of practice, it is a nightmare. It requires a lot of dedication. It requires a lot of foresight, because what you're really doing is you're taking that oh crud moment that comes when problems happen, and you're moving it all the way to the front and planning for it and planning around it. Planning for it and is that it gives you the idea of problems that will be coming and planning and adapting for them as they go. And this is a very short cycle when it comes to Agile. And I'll tell you about how we use Agile at Clio to give you kind of an idea of how it works. These are some of my teammates hanging out in our beautiful office where the sun is shining right now, and I'm here. Yeah. So how it works is each team has a section that we call a sprint. They're usually 1 to 2 weeks long. And at the beginning of each sprint, the entire team gets together and says, what do we want to accomplish in the next 2 weeks? What's on our backlog? Things that we said we want to accomplish. What's demanding our attention right now? What do we think we can handle? And as a team, we decide for the next week or 2 weeks what we're going to accomplish. And we use a tool called Jira, but there are lots of different tools out there for this, to document all of those different tasks, all of the different outputs that we want to deliver. And then we have a person that we call a Scrum Master who gathers that all together, puts it into a document, and hits go. And that's what we do for the next week, 2 weeks, is we get up in the morning, we look at our tickets in Jira, and we work on them. And everybody knows, of course, there's never any interruption when you've got an important task and you've got to sit down and track it. So one of the other things our Scrum Masters does is every time somebody comes to us and says, I need you to do something, I need you to do it now, the first thing we do is we don't go yes or no. We go, Scrum Master, come on over here. I've got an injection. I want to document it. I want to see, what's taking my attention versus what I've planned to do. And we tie those together in terms of functionality. So at the end of a sprint, we can take a look at what's been accomplished. We can go, okay, yeah, we really got a lot done. It wasn't what we had planned for this week. It almost never is, right? But we know where the problems are coming from. We know how to incorporate those problems the next time around. We know who the problem person is, who keeps not bringing these things to our attention ahead of time. And that's allowed us to then, the next sprint, start planning the whole thing afresh, the whole thing new. And what does that give us as a company? Product updates. We tend to product update at least once a week, believe it or not. Some little twist, some little change, or something big, right? Big things take months. We admit that, but we work on them a part at a time. How many people here know about some of our recent product updates? Jeremy in the front, one of my colleagues does. We just released an Android app. It took close to a year to build. And they built it one feature at a time. What's the button going to look like? What's the layout going to be? If I swipe from left, what's that going to be? All of these were tickets that we built one at a time. We just rolled out, actually forked the product, which is a very, very big challenge, to where we started out catering only to solo and small law firms. So if you were a solo lawyer or a small law firm, we were the product for you. Piece of cake, no problem, built directly for you guys. Because the founders of Clio recognized one thing that a lot of other businesses didn't yet, and that's the majority of lawyers are solo and small law firms. How many solos and small firm lawyers do we have in the room? Yeah, nice. I know a couple of them right off the bat, right? In Ontario, it's close to 70% of lawyers are solos. That's a big chunk of the marketplace. And nobody was really tailoring to them because, quite frankly, solos don't tend to have a lot of money disposable that they could invest in their business. So when the internet came along, our founders, Jack and Ryan, noticed that they could distribute a really quality piece of software without a whole lot of investment in infrastructure. And that was a switch from previous software producers out there, especially in the legal space. So They launched back in 2008 at ABA Tech Show. Oddly enough, they got a little bit of press. That kept going. They received a $6 million round of investment from some guy in Germany. There's a whole story behind that about how the actual, like, hey, I want to give you money email ended up in their spam folder. Yeah, and so the investor thought they were playing hard to get, and they just hadn't gotten the email. It's really funny. And then just recently, we received an investment of $20 million. And so when Ken was talking about investment back in 2013, 2014, we were one of the ones. We're now used in over 10,000 law firms in 50 countries around the world. We're the backbone of 120 law schools. We're also the backbone of the new law practice program that Ryerson's put together for students who are going the non-traditional articling route. We're out there. We've become the backbone of a good chunk of legal space. In the ABA Tech Survey of 2014, they said, what are you using? And 17% of lawyers said Clio.